Welcome back to another Thanksgiving episode. You know, this time last year, Thanksgiving 2021, we were discussing Final Fantasy VIII. In a year's worth of time, we did 9, 10, 10-2, 11, 12, 12-2, and also 2 more tactics games. Advanced and Advance 2. That is Final Fantasy Tactics A2, Grimoire of the Rift. And the reward for dumbest Final Fantasy title so far goes to this game. It is a DS game, but it's a sequel to Advance, so they wanted to call it Advance 2. It was originally an Advance game, but then they somehow ended up on DS, and they didn't change the name to just DS, so they kept Advance, but they didn't want to call it Advance, so they just said A. It's not Advance 2, it's A2. It's like if they made a sequel to an N64 game on GameCube and just call it like Super Mario SF2. It would be really stupid. This might be a long one, fellas, because it is the last tactics game in this trilogy of tactics games. There was another like mobile game that died, so we won't be covering it. And I don't know if there's anything more that tactics that shows up later in the series, but we'll get to that later. And I do want to talk about my thoughts on the series as a whole at the end. If you've been following since last year, you know that I'm not really fond of these Final Fantasy Tactics games. They're a little overwhelming. The rules are kind of stupid in my opinion. The games are long, drawn out. They're about as long as the mainline games with so much less budget, less story, less fun. The first Tactics game had way too many rules. The Advanced Tactics game I reviewed a couple months back was a little better. It improved on a lot of things, but also added a couple things that I hated and didn't make any sense within the mechanics of the game. So here we are in the sequel, Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift, which follows more closely to the standards set by Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, further pushing the original Tactics games to be an outlier, standing much more unique compared to these two games. I just never gelled with these super serious medieval style games with so much focus on character building to the point where it just is a little overwhelming and also doesn't work as much as it seems like it should. My favorite SRPGs tend to have Mario and also Rabbids in them. I really like that Mario Rabbids game on the Switch. You know, I started playing this game on October 22nd, 2022, which so happened to be the release date of the sequel, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. A game that I was really looking forward to and didn't buy because I started this game and didn't want to have 2 tactics games going at the same time. I'd get overwhelmed. I'd probably not enjoy the Mario game too much, so let's focus on this game. So already starting off on an annoying note for me. But let's not jump on this game too quick. Let's not go crazy. What should we talk about first? Story. That starts off on a great note because the main character of this story is named Luzo. Luzo. I've actually seen this character design online before. I've seen his image going around. A lot of people have brought this up on Twitter and other spaces saying like, wow, this is one of the worst character designs I've ever seen. And I didn't realize it was from this game until I got to him and I was like, oh yeah, he really looks like an idiot. And what is that sword? You don't even use that sword in the game. Can you even call that a sword? What is that? And to learn that his name is literally Luzo was hilarious. And so the story starts off with Luzo hanging out in school, messing around with his friends. If you remember from Tactics Advance, that game kind of established a rule that Ivalice is a world that takes place in a storybook. We don't even know if it was just from that game or if it counted for all the games. But this goes a step further. The sequel, another kid in school gets in trouble, goes to detention, finds a book, jumps into it, and boom, you're in the world of Ivalice. The last game had a major focus on the kids and like a group of kids with their own problems outside. It was a longer opening about establishing them in this world and then jumping into the book and seeing their lives be improved but then realizing that we can't live fake lives in this fake fairy tale world. We gotta go out in the real world, and that's all what that game was about. This game is literally just you go to detention and you jump into the world. You don't even get any other character's name in the real life world, nor does anybody follow you into the book. This is just Luzo being Luzo in this magical world of Ivalice. As soon as you touch down in the world, you meet Sid, one of the fastest Sid updates in the West. He comes in, he's got a pointy nose, he's also got horns, and he's also got like reverse horns that are coming out of his chin area. He's like the pointiest man I've ever seen. And you meet a couple other people. Nobody else seems important. Sid is like your main go-to guy, and you join a clan together and you go on quests. You also have a magic journal that writes itself when you do things. So like you'll fight a battle and you'll save the day for somebody, and then you'll see at the top of the screen, the book will get a line written in. And it just keeps going like that, and that is basically the story. This story is literally, you do quests and things happen. Now you might say, oh, that's like every game. No. I mean, like, you do these side quests. They're marked as story main quests, but nothing significant happens. At some point in like the midpoint of the game, you talk to like this magic wizard who's like, you go to him and like, what's this book doing? It's writing itself. What does it mean? And he goes like, that book is the Grimoire of the Rift. Whoa, what does that do? I don't know, but it's kind of just typing in words by itself, and you should just keep doing things and it'll keep writing. So then you go and you do more random things. That is literally the story. Nothing interesting happens in the story. It's seriously one of the lamest stories in Final Fantasy. I'm telling you, I don't intentionally go out to rip the tactics games apart. This story was such a letdown. There's one girl who's kind of the main antagonist who has a history with Sid, and she's trying to like summon somebody, and then eventually you beat her, and that's like the end of the game. That's it. The lesson of the whole thing being, your story is what you make of it. You know, fate is in your hands. The future is in your hands. You can do anything. That's like the theme that they try to tie together. This does not connect to the real world. You never meet anybody outside of the book. There's really no reason, story-wise, to jump into a magical fairy tale land because nothing changes. Tactics Advance had a reason, you know, the characters go through a whole thing in there and realize that their lives outside can be improved and how they can do that. It's like a Chronicles of Narnia kind of situation, but this game is not. It's just, you jump into the book, do quests for 40 hours, and then you're done. One interesting thing does happen. At some point in the story, you're on an airship, they tell you it's being invaded, and then you see the invader is none other than Vaughn and Penelo, the Sky Pirate duo of Ivalice, of Final Fantasy XII and 12 Revenant Wings fame. Is the story gonna kick off? Is this story secretly a sequel to Final Fantasy XII 2? Is this Final Fantasy XII 3? Never thought I'd be excited to see Vaughn again. One of the least interesting characters of Final Fantasy history. Did improve in Revenant Wings, but nonetheless. But this brings up another thing. In my 12 review, I asked the question, but the world and Tactics Advance all took place inside of a storybook, not in reality. So I wonder if this implies that all of 12 takes place in a book. I think this game answers the question definitively. Vaughn and Penelo are there. This is not a cameo thing where they have appeared from another world as well, but there's one line that Penelo says. She offhandedly mentions they parted ways with somebody in the land of Lumeres, which is the land that you go into in Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings, which means not only does this take place after 12, it takes place after 12 Revenant Wings. This is the latest story in the Vaughn Penelo tale. Again, they're not main characters. They're there for a couple missions, and then they go off and do their own thing. You don't see Balthier, or Fran, or anybody. But this all but confirms that yes, the epic political war saga of Final Fantasy XII takes place in a little storybook in the world of Tactics Advance. That's kind of funny. This also means that there are many important characters named Cid within the same world. There's 12 Cid. There's Advanced Cid, who technically exists in the real world because he was Cid and then he came into the storybook land and became a different Cid. But then there's the Advanced 2 Cid, who is actually a resident of Ivalice. And then there's a 4th Cid, if you count the original Tactics. That original Tactics has never been confirmed to exist in the fairy tale world of Ivalice established in Advanced, but I don't see why it wouldn't be. So that means there's 4 Cids in the same world, but only one of them is real, and it's the Cid from Tactics Advance. I'm going crazy. Who cares about this? I'm the only person who cares about the Cid lore, but I care a lot, okay? So basically the themes are, the future's unwritten, write your own story, follow your heart, yada yada yada, that sort of thing. And I'm going to spoil the one cool thing that happens in the very end of this game, so if you don't want to hear it, skip like a couple of seconds. You wake up, you're back out of the book, and some teacher comes in and goes like, "What are you doing here? It's after school, you should get out of here." "Mr. Randall, I was in this magic fairy tale world. Oh, you're never gonna believe me. There was all this crazy stuff. I think this book is magic." And he goes like, "I know. I've been there too." And he goes like, "Really? Yeah, now get out of here." And then it ends. They don't tell you who the guy is. I had to Google it. And the teacher was actually Mute, who, if you don't remember, is the little kid from Tactics Advance who was really bullied, and then he jumped into the fairy tale world and kind of became the antagonist, like tyrannical king, and then you have to beat him and convince him that he's cool and everything. So he turned out to be a cool guy working as a teacher in the same school, and apparently intentionally throwing kids into the world of Ivalice. It's kind of weird. Yeah, he's cool though. But as we all know, the meat of the Tactics games is its expansive character growth and tactical gameplay. Let's begin. Like the jump from the original Tactics to Tactics Advance, we have a slew of really appreciated improvements on the gameplay. The first thing happens immediately as you hit new game. It asks you for your preference of difficulty. Normal or hard. You can actually choose which difficulty the game can give you. I didn't hesitate. I chose normal. Call me whatever you want, dude. These games can be pretty annoying. I chose normal. Improvement number 2, a given. Better graphics, bigger screen. You can see a lot more. Comes with the system, comes with the territory, but it's still a bonus. Perhaps the most major quality of life improvement is the top of the screen on the DS. It is not wasted space. It actually shows you the exact turn order, and it shows you the sprites of the enemies and your team. It shows exactly who's going in what order. In the past 2 games, you had to open up a menu to find that, and it's really crucial information. Like, you have to constantly open that menu. Now it's always there. That's great. The law system is back. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the law is also always displayed on the top, so you're not forgetting and going like, "Oh crap, it was against the law to use this weapon. Well, going to jail now." No, it's always there. You're always responsible. You can highlight an enemy, and on the top it'll tell you what element they're weak to, or more importantly, which elements they're not weak to, which elements they might absorb to heal themselves. Pretty crucial information. If you go to change jobs, it'll actually tell you. In the old games, they just kind of grayed out the job that you couldn't choose, and you'd be like, how do I get that? How do I get that? You have to Google it, you have to go to the wiki. In this game, it'll actually tell you, to unlock this job, you gotta learn 3 abilities from this job, and then you get it. Was it that hard to tell us earlier in the other games? It's here now, that's a good thing. There's a new system called the Clan Privileges system, which is a little power boost you can choose at the start of every battle. By doing a couple of clan missions, which are like special challenges, you unlock these powers, and they're just very nice. You can choose power, which will let you do more damage, take less damage. Speed, which will make you faster. Speed is the most important thing in tactics, so like I chose that almost every time. Cool little powers. Are they overpowered? No, because I'll tell you why later. The law system is back and changed quite a bit. For starters, there's only one law per level, as opposed to up to 3 in the last game. Secondly, all laws are predetermined. They cannot be cheesed. If you remember in the last tactics video, I talked about how you can easily cheese the law system because it was random every time and it changed based on how you move on the map. So if you just keep moving until the law that you want is ready, you can just jump in then. It was so ridiculously easy to exploit, but this time it's all predetermined. And because they're predetermined, they always make sense for the level. You know, like you're gonna go into a level where there's a mix of different races that are going to fight you. Your goal is to defeat this guy, but the law is you can't harm this race. So there's going to be an enemy of that race attacking you, and if you want to follow the law, you can't hurt him, and it's this extra challenge that makes sense in the level. But most importantly, prison is no longer a thing. If you broke the law in the last game, you went to prison. It was the worst mechanic ever. It's pure anti-fun. I despised it. You break a law, whichever one of your characters broke the law gets removed from the battle. And the next few battles, they're just not present on your team. They cannot gain XP, they cannot gain ability points. They are locked behind a wall, and you just have to wait. It sucked. No more prison. So what makes you follow laws in this game? Well, one thing is that you lose your clan privilege for the level. That cool little power boost I told you about a little while ago. You will lose it as soon as you break the law. That's a little annoying, but not too bad. If you follow the law all the way through the level, you get a bonus loot item, and loot is extremely important. They're like crafting items basically, and there's a lot of them, and you want to have a lot of them. So there's a great reason to follow laws. And lastly, if you break the law, you cannot revive teammates for the rest of the match. Doesn't matter if your character took a while and learned Raise. Doesn't matter if you have Phoenix Downs, you cannot revive enemies if you've broken the law. So now this law system went from a completely stupid waste of time to a system that makes complete sense. And you're not gonna feel like the worst if you break the law. You can still power through and not like waste a character because they're gonna be in prison forever. These are all great improvements. The law system is good now. I think I stand by what I said in the last time video where it was just nonsense in that game. It makes sense now. Good. They added a pseudo gambling sub-game to the game. Every 200 days on the map, you can report into one of the main towns and participate in an auction. And you have this cool little game where you bet money quickly in successive rounds. But there's like 3 games in a row with a couple rounds each, and you have one set of money. So you have like $1 coins, $2 coins, $3 coins, $4 coins, and if you're lucky, you get a $5 coin, but only if you land on the right spot. So like by round 3, you want to be in second place or something. It'll tell you. You don't want to be first, you want to be second. Sometimes you want to be fourth or something. It's really hard to figure out how to do that. So you got to bet accordingly, and if you make it to second place by the 3rd round, you'll get a bonus $5 coin, which is the most you can possibly bet. And you're competing against a bunch of different people, and the winner gets the rights to a piece of land. Like you're auctioning land. It doesn't do a whole lot for you in terms of the gameplay. You might get a reward for it. You might have another clan invade and try to fight you in a battle for it. But if you take control of all the lands, the next time an auction shows up, you will be auctioning off rare items that'll give you really cool abilities. And that's when it becomes really cool. The only problem with the auctions is that they appear every 200 days, in-game days, which a day is like every time you jump into a new area on the map, which doesn't happen all the time, When the auctions appear, they're there for 20 days. I've had that happen 3 times over the course of my 39-hour gameplay. Would have liked it a little more. I really enjoyed that little game. It did a lot to break up the pacing of this very slow tactic game. I also did really good. My clan owns all of the land. I'm basically a dictator. Let's talk about character growth. This changed significantly over the original Tactics to Tactics Advanced, but it works basically the same in this game as the last one. You get items, the items have abilities, so when you equip the item you can do that ability, but if you equip it long enough to get enough points towards the ability, when it maxes out, you can then use that ability without using the item, so you can kind of log a bunch of different abilities in one character, even though their job class is like a blue mage or something. It's a system I thought worked a lot better than the original, so I'm glad it's still here, but what changed is the way you get items. In the last game, items would just appear in the shop over the course of the story. This time there's a little thing called the Bazaar, which you might know from 12. It's a little similar to how it works in 12. Actually, it's really different. This took me a while to figure out, to be honest. I'm ashamed to admit. I was like 8 hours into the game and realizing that the shop didn't have any new items, and I was like, okay, what is this? Oh, is it this Bazaar thing? What's the Bazaar? You go in the Bazaar, and I have some issues with the way this works, so let's just try to explain it. The Bazaar is essentially a long list of vague descriptions describing a potential item you might want. When you click on one of the vague descriptions, you can craft an item ranking from rank A being the highest to rank E being the lowest. The game will tell you which rank you're able to craft. And when you click on it, you have to find the items that will work. It only highlights the ones that can work, so you click on the right ones, and then you get an item. And this is the only way to get items in this game, aside from the rare occasion where you're rewarded for it for a certain mission. Because items are the backbone of how characters are evolved in this game, this is not a good system. There's not enough information for you to build your characters the way you want. It's complicated. So remember what I said earlier when I was talking about the laws. If you don't break the law, you might get a bonus crafting item at the end of it, and this is why it's important. Let's say I'm a black mage. I did have a black mage on my team. I always like to have them. You know black mages, they have the spells of fire, thunder, blizzard, and then it goes Fira, or Fira, and then Firaga. So if you have a black mage, you want to get those better abilities. Those are kind of the main black mage abilities. How do you get those? Well, black mages use staves, or staffs, or rods. They kind of use all three. So I scroll down the Bazaar list, and I find something that says rods. Now, the game is telling me I currently don't have any items that'll let me craft any tier, so what do? Nothing. The answer is you can't do anything. You can't find out what materials you need to craft the item that you need. This is a huge problem, because I actually did have a black mage, and I did not get any Aga spells by the end of the game. But close to the end, I got a rod that would give me Thundaga, but I didn't have enough time to learn it by the end, because it costed like 400 ability points. I could say the same thing for just about every other character on my team. There was some kind of ability I didn't get that I was looking for, that I wanted. Because of the system was kept so vague, why did they change it so much? I don't like the Bazaar. But we're not done with my example. Let's assume you did have crafting materials, and it told you, hey, you're actually able to craft a C tier rod weapon. Okay. You click on it and you fill out the items that it wants, and then you get a little pixel image of the rod you're gonna get. That helps nobody. A picture of a rod does not tell me what I'm going to get. It doesn't even tell you the name. It tells you question mark, question mark, question mark. So I can't even Google what this weapon is going to be, and I have like one of each of these materials, and I'm going to blow them away for this rod. I hope it's the one I want. Okay, press A. So So you press A, you craft it, because what else are you going to do? And it says, congratulations, you've crafted a Time Mage rod. This thing will teach you slow. That's not what I wanted. I wasted those materials. So now, I might have used those later for a rod I really wanted, like a B tier rod, which happened to be a Black Mage one. There's no rhyme or reason for which kind of rod you'll get. There's like 80 of these potential crafting item rows with 5 columns each of potential things you can craft of different varying tiers. It's like the vaguest system for unlocking items in a game where unlocking items is the core to building your character. What this system boils down to is me scrolling the entire stupidly long list, seeing a new like check mark signifying I can actually craft something and going like, ooh, do I need that? Maybe, let's find out, craft it. Turns out, no, turn off the game, turn it back on because I don't want to waste those materials on an item I don't need. It's a shame. It's really the only bad change from the last game to the first, because everything else is really improved. And even the new mechanics are good, but this Bazaar thing it doesn't work out. See, these games are about building your team like they're an engine, working together, synergizing with their abilities, learning unique abilities that'll help you in unique situations, equipping the right stuff for a battle. This genre of game is often compared to board games, and I love board games. These are engine building, like Euro style games, they call them. There's a whole subgenre of those games, and people love them. That's where this series works, when building your engine of characters is as satisfying as it can be, both in the building phase and the payoff phase. The Bazaar makes building that engine the least fun thing. Imagine you're playing one of these Euro games and you need like wheat or something to cultivate your farm, whatever. You ask like the person explaining the rules, how do I get wheat? And they'll go like, oh, you need to go to this shop. Oh, and then I could just buy it? No, you need to go to the shop and then you like ask for wheat. Okay, I'll do that. Can I have wheat? Yeah, alright, here's wood. What do I do with that? Well, I don't know, some wood. Wood, you can craft stuff with wood. No, but I wanted wheat because I wanted this thing. No, well, we have wood now. How do I get wheat? Try again next turn. I still don't really jive with these tactics games, man. Regardless of how many things they improve, the core gameplay is still slow, sloggy, takes forever to build the characters that you want. By the time I beat the game, I haven't done half of the things that I wanted to do. Meanwhile, other RPGs with a job system like Final Fantasy V or even Final Fantasy XII, I'm doing crazy stuff with the jobs that I've chosen. For the final boss, I'm like destroying him and doing super well because I've built these characters carefully, strategically. And that just doesn't happen in the tactics games because they want you to take forever to do it. In terms of difficulty, yeah, there are a few brick walls that you'll run into, but eventually you get through it, not by rethinking your strategy and re-equipping stuff or taking time to learn new abilities, but by grinding and just kind of outpowering everything. At the end of the day, I beat the original Final Fantasy Tactics mostly because I was being carried by the great Sidolphus Orlando. I beat Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced because I was just overpowered by the end with my guys, and I beat Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift the same way. The difficulty in these games equates to how many side quests have you done. I might have chosen normal mode or as opposed to hard mode at the beginning, but hard mode really would have just translated to I would have had to do more side quests to get strong enough to fight the final boss. But doing too many side quests, grinding too much in these games, it's such a pain. It takes forever. The gameplay in itself is not fun enough to ask me to grind that much. You know, in Pokemon, you Pokemon fans surely knew that one kid in middle school. Maybe you were that kid. The kid who avoided every trainer's line of sight because they didn't want to do the battle. The kid who avoided tall grass or used repels because they didn't want to fight too much. Then they get to the gym battle and go like, I can't beat this guy. Tom, how did you beat this guy? And it was like, my guys were appropriate level to beat the gym battle? What's wrong with you? Oh, my guys are like 10 levels less. Did you avoid every trainer battle you've ever ran into? Yes. You know that kid, right? Well, I was kind of that kid for these tactics games. I avoided side quests. I tried to brute force the main quest as much as I could, and it didn't end up being fun. But the difference between this game and Pokemon is that a battle is 20 minutes in this game. As somebody who can actually enjoy, I have a whole shelf of long strategic board games with time that you will spend sitting there like watching other people do their turn before it finally gets to you. I still have fun playing them. But this game, when it's like just me sitting there for 20 minutes in a battle, half the time I'm not even playing because the enemy's doing their attacks or my guy's immobilized and they can't do anything. And I'm just waiting. That's like most of the game, and these games are so long. Of all the spin-offs, most spin-offs, I mean, you can watch, I have all these videos collecting all this data, basically, discovering that most of the spin-offs average around the 20-hour or less mark, and most of the mainline Final Fantasy titles come out to around 40 hours, because they are grand, high-budget, big JRPGs. But the tactics games are just as long as the mainline games, and have so much less to offer. The really sad part about these games is how much time you spend learning abilities you're never going to use. Like, I want to unlock the ninja job. I need to learn 4 thief abilities. I don't even like thief at all. And now my main guy is going to spend 70% of the game as thief, learning these abilities that take forever to learn. Maybe there are abilities that take less time to learn, but I don't know where to get them because I'm just getting the random influx of items that I get from the Bazaar. I finally get ninja, I finally get the right attack, and it's cool. I basically spent the whole game learning one ability. Dual wield it was, which is one of the best abilities in the game. But I'm not building a whole complex character with each of these characters. I'm basically getting to one point with each of them, and then I don't have enough time to do anything else. I always think back to Final Fantasy V. By the end of the game, all 4 of your party members have perfect synergy with the way you built them, and they could be completely unique from what somebody else did in that game, but both of you are overpowered in your own right because you put in the time and the strategy. This game is already 40 hours, but it slaps you on the wrist for not spending 60 hours. I don't get why these games are so beloved. We may have spent too much time here. Let's conclude. I may have ranted a lot, but that doesn't mean this game wasn't the best in the series. I don't love it, but it's definitely the smoothest experience. The story is the worst. I think we can now conclude that over the course of these 3 tactics games, the story and the gameplay exist in this direct linear relationship as the gameplay improves and the story just gets worse and worse and worse. So if you're looking for the best balance, I guess check out Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. I think what would have saved this game is not having the Bazaar system, or at least redoing that and making it make more sense. And maybe just cutting the wait times of how long it takes to learn abilities. I don't know why they want you to spend so long to learn like one ability for your character. Like, isn't the point to have fun experimenting? You can't experiment in this game unless you spend way long doing it. And then you're going to be overpowered for the final boss anyway. It's not really going to pay off, right? And that goes for like all 3 of these, really. The last thing I want to say to sum up Final Fantasy Tactics, just the trilogy, the sub-series, let's just sum up my thoughts. I've covered bad games on this show. The Tactics games are not them, but the Tactics series might be the only games that I covered on the show that I'm just personally not invested in. These are games that do not appeal to me for whatever reason. Well, I shouldn't say whatever reason because I've explained it pretty extensively, the reasoning, in all 3 of these videos. I just want to make clear it's not SRPGs that turn me off. It's not the genre. It's not that I don't like tactics games. I just fundamentally disagree with the way the tactics games ask you to build your character. And there are so many rules present in all 3 games that are purely anti-fun. I keep thinking about that and going like, what does this add? Does this improve on the gameplay? Does it make it more challenging? And the answer is no, it's just less fun. I'm a little insecure, a little self-conscious about these particular videos because I know people love tactics and I'm the guy out here going like, I don't think they're good. I don't think, it makes me think I'm wrong because I'm not in the majority. But then I think about what I've said in the past. The biggest thing I complained about in the original tactics was that Zodiac system and how it made 0 sense. In Tactics Advance, that system's gone. In Tactics Advance, the biggest thing I complained about there was the law system making 0 sense and the prison system being completely just anti-fun. That is all removed in Advance 2. The one thing I complained about in Advance 2, the Bazaar makes no sense. I would bet money if there was a 3rd Advanced game or a 4th Tactics game, they would revamp the Bazaar. The fact that the games fix my biggest complaints with each iteration makes me feel like I have to be right about something. But anyway, last thing, if you've watched all 3 of these tactics videos and haven't played them, or haven't played a tactical RPG, I hope I didn't turn you off from the genre. I personally do not really enjoy these games, but I do actually love tactics games. I don't hate the genre. In fact, basically every strategy tactical RPG I've ever played, I've loved immensely more than any of these Final Fantasy Tactics games. And I'd absolutely recommend any of them for people who are trying to get into the genre for the first time. Oh, I guess I should tie it back to Thanksgiving. It is the Thanksgiving special. This Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for the SRPGs that I've played and loved every second of. SteamWorld Heist, Rules, Gloomhaven. I've only just started, but man, that's a game with longer than 20 minutes per level, and I still love it. It's like, it's so satisfying, the strategy and the deck building and the character building. Love it. And finally, I'll recommend Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. For those of you who think, oh, that's baby's first RPG. Maybe, but there are definitely some challenges. It's just a perfect amount. And these games don't make you wait forever for things. These games don't ask so much of you. They're all way shorter than 40. Well, I don't know if Gloomhaven's shorter than 40 hours. That might be pretty long. But that game is so fun that I'm willing to spend that much time. So, yeah, check out Mario Rabbids on Switch. It's pretty good. It goes on sale. Which reminds me, I gotta write this raw. I'll be right back. Have you ever played Final Fantasy Tactics?
Oh, no. I never played it yet.
Not as much.
Have a good day.
You too.